Sanjay, you can admit everyone. And you can put spotlight to all 7 speakers if you have already done. If you're not done it, then just put it. Okay, so let's start. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because I know there are friends and students from all batches are joining from different parts of the world, many of them from India, many of them from Southeast Asia, US, Europe. So very, very warm welcome. जैसा आप सबको पता है कि संवाद हमारा एक बहुत ही गजब प्लेटफॉर्म है. इसमें पिछले साल भर में we have had an opportunity to meet some fantastic, amazing talents from GESU, और उनसे we have had a chance to learn from them, interact with them, and there have been some amazing stories that we have shared. Today we are making a new beginning. आज हम एक नई शुरुआत कर रहे हैं जिसमें हम लोग और ये पहला कदम है और ऐसे और कदम हम आगे लेंगे जरूर, जिसमें हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि हम कुछ इंडस्ट्री सेक्टर्स पे फोकस करें और हर सेक्टर में क्या कैरियर अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं, खास करके स्टूडेंट्स के लिए जो अभी कॉलेज में हैं, या वो स्टूडेंट्स या जो वो हमारे दोस्त जो अभी कुछ ही सालों में कॉलेज से पास आउट हुए हैं. खास करके उन लोगों के लिए बहुत बहुत हम सोचते हैं कि उपयोगी होगा, बहुत यूजफुल होगा. और हमारी कोशिश ये रहेगी कि इस सीरीज में हम अलग अलग सेक्टर्स में, अलग अलग फोकस एरियाज में डोमेन्स के एक्सपर्ट्स को, अपने कॉलेज से निकले हुए गेसू के एक्सपर्ट्स को लेकर के आए. आज का हमारा जो पहला सेशन है, इट इज फोकस्ड ऑन डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजीज, आईटी सेक्टर पे है. और जैसा आप सब लोगों को शायद पता ही है कि आईटी सेक्टर में हमारे बहुत सारे चैंपियंस हैं. उनमें से 6 चैंपियंस आज हमारे साथ में हैं, एंड आई विल हैव द अपॉर्चुनिटी टू इंट्रोड्यूस ऑल ऑफ देम. ये बिफोर आई डू दैट, देयर आर कपल ऑफ कमेंट्स आई वांटेड टू मेक. सो पहला तो संवाद की जो पूरी टीम है, संजय किमेश्रा, माय डियर फ्रेंड, पुनीत सर, और बहुत सारे गेसू इवेंजलिस्ट, संवाद के इवेंजलिस्ट, they are behind us, and they are actually the credit goes to them to bring all these fantastic sessions to us. So congratulations and many, many thanks to all of them. Secondly, Puneet sir reminded me right at the beginning of the session कि 15 अगस्त को पिछली बार जैसे हमने एक सेशन किया था, हमारे एलुमनाई का, हमारे सारे गेसू के दोस्तों का एक गेट टुगेदर हुआ था. इस साल भी 15 अगस्त को हम लोग ऐसा सेशन करने जा रहे हैं. So please watch out and keep an eye on the more details which will come very, very soon. आज का जो सेशन है, we'll try and not go into technicalities into too much of detail. Okay? हम बहुत ज्यादा टेक्निकल चीजों में नहीं जाएंगे. हम कोशिश ये करेंगे कि एक ब्रॉड स्पेक्ट्रम, एक बहुत सारी चीजों को हम टच करें, हाई लेवल पर टच करें, जिससे जो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं, जो हमारे एलुमनाई हैं, उनको इस सेक्टर में जो कैरियर अपॉर्चुनिटीज है उसके बारे में जानकारी मिले. और उसके बाद में हम लोग जो है, अगर कहीं पे जरूरत होती है तो हम उन टॉपिक्स को जिनके ऊपर ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट है, आप उनके बारे में अपने चैट बॉक्स में लिखिए. तो विल ट्राई एंड अरेंज सम एडिशनल सेशंस डीप डाइविंग ऑन दोस. इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस, वेरी स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चंस टू एनी ऑफ द पैनलिस्ट, कोई आपके दिमाग में सवाल है अभी या सेशन के दौरान, तो आप उसको चैट बॉक्स में टाइप कीजिए. विल ट्राई एंड क्यूरेट सम ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस, और चुने हुए क्वेश्चंस को विल ट्राई एंड ब्रिंग देम टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द सेशन इफ द टाइम परमिट्स. तो हमारी कोशिश ये होगी कि जो हमारा टाइम है 90 मिनट्स का, हम बिल्कुल शार्प ऑन टाइम शुरू करें और ऑन टाइम खत्म करें, सो दैट हम वो एक अच्छी शुरुआत कर सकें इस बारे में. सो लेट मी स्टार्ट विद द इंट्रोडक्शन. सो फर्स्ट एंड तो मेरे ख्याल से इंट्रोडक्शन जो है हमेशा जूनियर से चालू होते हैं गेसू में. तो मैं सबसे पहले हमारे जो इलस्ट्रियस पैनल है उसके सबसे यंग अचीवर को इंट्रोड्यूस करूंगा. इट्स अमित राज सिंह चौहान. अमित इज फ्रॉम 2007 बैच. हेलो अमित, वेलकम. Amit is a senior software engineer at Google. He is based at Zurich in Switzerland. He did his engineering in computer science from GESU starting from 2003 to 2007, and then he did his MTech from IIT Mumbai. Then he joined Citrix R&D in India, in Bangalore as software engineer. Then after 2.5 years, he moved to Microsoft, okay, where he worked for another 4.5 years, and then he moved to Google. So you can check all the big names in the IT industry, and Amit has left his footprints on those. He is very, very passionate and supportive of GESU students, and he has already attended some of the sessions for GESU students, and I'm sure today we'll love interacting with them. Let me move on and introduce another two colleagues actually, Ashutosh and Manish. Both of them are actually from 2004 batch. Let me start with Ashutosh. Ashutosh is passed out in 2004, as I said, from electrical branch. He is currently working with TCS as client partner and agile transformation consultant. Prior to TCS, Ashutosh has worked with GE and Capgemini Consulting and various technology and consulting roles. He also has further benchmarked his industry knowledge with certifications such as Six Sigma, PSM1, PSPO, Agile Ninja Coach, and many, many more. And the wonderful thing about Ashutosh is, जब हम इस session की बात कर रहे थे, he immediately put his hand up and he said, Agile and DevOps are the two things which are very, very important. Not only I'm going to talk today about those, but I'm very happy to come myself and bring some of experts from TCS to GESU to talk to the students about those technologies. So Ashutosh, very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Let me move on to Manish. Manish also is an electrical engineer, engineering graduate from GESU, passed out in 2004. Then he did his MBA from Sikkim Manipal University. He's been with Kotak Mahindra for almost 10 years and has led .NET, MVC, .Core, React.js, and Angular teams at Kotak Mahindra Bank. He's currently working as the AVP, Associate Vice President for Kotak Mahindra, where he is responsible for developing digital products and applications, as well as maintaining the vendor-based applications and various API integrations. So, banking industry or digital jo hai abhi, all of us talk about the jam trinity, और उसमें बहुत बड़ा हाथ जो है वो डिजिटल और बैंकिंग का है, and Manish is playing and his team is playing a very, very important role there. So Manish, welcome. I think you are on mute, Manish. Khemu, can you unmute Manish? But let me move on and then in the meanwhile go to yes,
thank you,
we can hear you, Manish. Yes, absolutely.
Good evening, friends. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let me talk about another accomplished GESUite, Sulabh. Sulabh is joining in from the US. He's got 21 years of consulting experience, both in IT and also domain experience in the supply chain industry, where he is an expert. He graduated in mechanical in 1997, and then he did his management post-graduation from IIT Mumbai. He has worked with TCS, Sierra Atlantic, HCL, NTT Data before he decided to become an entrepreneur himself and started his own venture called Radiance Technologies. He has been awarded by Supply Chain Council of Operation Research, SCOR, for Supply Chain Management Technology Excellence in the year 2009. So, जो उनकी प्रतिभा का लोहा जो है वो दुनिया भर के लोग और इंडस्ट्री के लोग भी मानते हैं. He is also certified project management professional from the PMI, Project Management Institute, as well as has a lot of other certifications. The wonderful thing about Sulabh is he has been offering very proactively opportunities for our GESU students for internships, and also have absorbed some of our people, and they are working actually in his company now. Sulabh, very warm welcome to you. You're also on mute, Sulabh. तुमको भी अनम्यूट करना होगा. Khemu, probably Sulabh needs some help. Let me, yeah, you're on mute now.
Yeah, okay, thanks Pradyum sir, and hello everyone. Glad to be part of this. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let me move to next one of our wonderful panelists, Loken Pawar. I think there are very few people in GESU and especially on Samvad who don't know Loku. Loku is founder and CEO of Propero Consulting, a company which is focused on RPA, e-commerce, and AI and machine learning. Before founding Propero, Lokendra has, I should be more formal and call Lokendra, has had a fantastic fast-track career in IT. He started with Zensar in System Software Division, and then spent 13 years with Geometric, a company which is focused on engineering software development. Then he moved on to Onward Technologies, where he headed international business and was responsible for growth across 10 of its global offices. He's a postgraduate of IIT Kharagpur, an executive MBA from XLRI, and also has done certification courses with Harvard Business School. But very, very importantly, he is the Chalta Firta database of all our Gesuite alumni. I mean, he is, if you want to connect to anyone, he is the server. आप उसमें connect कर लो और आपको दुनिया में कोई Gesuite उसके पहुंच से बाहर नहीं है. तो कानून के हाथ तो लंबे होते ही हैं और लोगों के हाथ और लंबे होते हैं.
Hi everyone, thank you so much, sir. Always love to connect with Gesuites.
Fantastic. And then last but not the least, my dear friend and my batchmate, Sanjay Saini. Sanjay is a leader in supply chain and finance transformation. He is a co-founder and co-CEO of very, very well-known and recently in news, a company called Stemly, which is leveraging cutting-edge SaaS applications for supply chain and finance. Sanjay and his company are driving convergence of cloud, in-memory, blockchain, IoT, and driving a very strong impact on the supply chain industry overall. Before founding his own company, he worked with Oracle, Blue Star, Logical Apps, and Anaplan in various capacities. As I said, he's from 1992 batch. He's a mechanical engineer and has also done his PG diploma in business management and fintech from MIT in the US. So Sanjay, very warm welcome. Bhai.
Greetings all. Good to meet you all.
Excellent. Let me do a very quick intro about myself. My name is Pradyumna Ingle, as you can see also on the screen, and I've had the pleasure to host a couple of sessions previously as well. I'm also a Gesuite of 1992 batch. I did my engineering in electronics. Currently, I'm based in Shanghai and work with a company called Henkel. Henkel is the world's largest manufacturer of adhesives. And I currently head two of our business verticals in the Asia Pacific region. One is a B2B industrial business, and the second is the B2B2C, our consumer adhesives business. And over the last 25 years, I've had the opportunity and privilege to build very successful businesses and teams, both in Asia Pacific region, but also in India, Middle East, and Africa. But I think most important achievement for me if I was to count one of them, is actually to be friends with so many Gesuites. And today I get an opportunity to connect with many, many more. So without further ado, let me jump right into the questions. And I wanted to ask this question because I get this question asked a lot, especially by my son, who is also in his final year of computer science engineering. And I'll start with Manish, actually. And Manish, I wanted to ask you two questions. One is, what are the roles, variety or different roles and departments which are available in the IT industry? And as we saw, there are people with multiple different backgrounds here on the panel already today. And what are the different ways and skills which are must-have required to get into the IT industry?
Okay. Yes, sir. So before the session begins, I like to congratulate our students, TPO sir and College for Placement selections. So I think we should all clap for them. Okay. So now the questions like different roles and department in IT, and then second, how a student can find the jobs find jobs in IT. Okay. So sir, I classified the students in like third year students, final year students, and the students who are pass out a year back or drop out students, or unko abhi placement nahi mila hai, right? And then there is classification like IT from background, IT background and non-IT background, like mechanical, electrical, chemical, civil, and other branches, right? So and then there is one more classification, that is one is scholar students and one is average students, right, sir? So for scholar student, if you have 10, 12 degree and everything is first class, and then for average students, the basic need is communication skills and analytics, right? वो सबको लगेगा ही लगेगा, तो उस पे अपन को सबको काम करना पड़ेगा, कोई भी स्टूडेंट हो, चाहे थर्ड ईयर फाइनल या ड्रॉप इंजीनियरिंग पास आउट हो गया है और वो जॉब फाइंड कर रहा है. दैट इज अ बेसिक नीड. फॉर आईटी बैकग्राउंड के लिए थोड़ा इजी है, बिकॉज कंपनी नॉर्मली शॉर्टलिस्ट करती है CSIT स्टूडेंट्स को, बट अगर नॉन आईटी ब्रांचेस के हैं तो उनको थोड़ा एड ऑन करना चाहिए, कुछ स्किल एड ऑन करना चाहिए सॉफ्टवेयर की। अब ओपन काफी सारी स्किल्स हैं जो ओपन सोर्स हैं आजकल, लाइक आजकल नहीं, ऑलरेडी C++, जावा, एंड्रॉइड, देन ओपन सोर्स काफी सारा है, जो एंगुलर, रिएक्ट जेएस, नोड जेएस, एंड्रॉइड, एंड देन डेटाबेस लाइक MS SQL, MySQL। तो ये फ्रेशर्स ये अपने आप भी लर्न कर सकते हैं, और चाहे तो क्लासेस ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं, लाइक NIT और अदर एकेडमी, एप्टेक वगैरह, तो वो एकेडमी ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं। देन अगर कोई स्टूडेंट जो ड्रॉप आउट है, जो 1 साल लग गया, उसको जॉब नहीं मिल रही है, तो फॉर देम दे नीड टू ज्वाइन सम लाइक CDAC कोर्स, दे कैन ज्वाइन टाटा CMC। वहां पर भी कोर्सेज होते हैं जो 6 मंथ्स का कोर्स होता है, एंड देन दे विल वो लोग इंटरव्यू कराते हैं। देन देयर इज NIT का एसिडेंट एडवांस इंजीनियरिंग कोर्स है, तो वहां पे भी वो कैंपस कराते हैं। देन देयर इज सीड इन्फोटेक, जो मेनली टेस्टिंग के लिए, एप्लीकेशन टेस्टिंग के लिए बहुत ज्यादा पॉपुलर है। तो जो स्टूडेंट्स ड्रॉप आउट हैं वो ये वाला पाथ ले सकते हैं और इंटर्नशिप कर सकते हैं किसी कंपनी के साथ। सेकंड, जो स्टूडेंट्स है, स्पेशली ड्रॉप आउट स्टूडेंट्स की बात करें, जो उनको 1 साल हो गया जॉब नहीं मिल रहा है, उनको अपना सबसे मेजर होता है, उनको अपना नेटवर्क बहुत बड़ा करना होता है। सो सोशल नेटवर्क कनेक्ट विद द सीनियर्स, कनेक्ट विद द कॉलेज का जो अपने फ्रेंड्स प्लेस हो गए उनके साथ कनेक्ट करो, सीनियर्स के साथ कनेक्ट करो। उससे क्या होगा, आपको मालूम पड़ेगा कि कहाँ ये ओपनिंग्स आ रही है या ओपन कैंपस आ रहा है, लाइक तो वो नेटवर्किंग उनको बहुत बड़ा करना पड़ेगा। जितना वो नेटवर्किंग बड़ा करेंगे उतने उनको चांसेस ज्यादा मिलेंगे। तो अगर लाइक फ्रेशर्स हैं तो कॉलेज में कैंपस आएगा, ओपन कैंपस आएगा, तो उनको इंफॉर्मेशन रहेगी उनके पास फॉर कैंपस, राइट। एंड फॉर देम कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स, एनालिटिक्स एंड बेसिक अगर सॉफ्टवेयर नॉलेज है, दैट इज सफिशिएंट फॉर द फ्रेशर्स, और राइट। और फॉर द ड्रॉपर्स मैंने बताया कि उन लोगों को कोई या तो कोर्सेज करें, इंटर्नशिप करें, और नेटवर्किंग अपना बड़ा करें, तो कनेक्ट करें सीनियर्स के साथ, रेफरल्स प्रोग्राम्स, तो वो सब उनको मिल सकता है। तो ये तो हो गया कि जॉब आईटी में कैसे वो ले सकते हैं। सेकंड, अब जो आईटी में डिपार्टमेंट क्या होता है, नॉर्मली जो फ्रेशर्स होते हैं उनको सिर्फ यही समझ में आता है कि एप्लीकेशन डेवलपमेंट, जावा, .NET या जो भी लैंग्वेज चल रही है, एंड्रॉइड या iOS या हाइब्रिड एप्लीकेशन या फिर दूसरा नेटिव एप्लीकेशन, तो ये सब जो चलता है मेजरली वो सब वही जानते हैं। देखिए आईटी ऐसा नहीं है, आईटी एक बहुत बड़ा फील्ड है। आईटी की ब्यूटी ये है सर कि आईटी के अंदर कोई भी जॉब कर सकता है, लेकिन अगर आप कोर ब्रांच से बिलोंग करते हैं तो आप इलेक्ट्रिकल वाले इलेक्ट्रिकल में जॉब करेगा, मैकेनिकल वाले मैकेनिकल, लेकिन आईटी सबको जॉब देता है। तो ये आईटी की एक क्वालिटी है। ओके सर, इसमें भी अभी कोई भी ब्रांचेस हो, कंपनीज हो, दे वर्क ऑन इलेक्ट्रिकल, मैकेनिकल और एनी अदर इंडस्ट्री, दे रिक्वायर आईटी। आईटी सबको चाहिए, इवन आई एम बैंकिंग, आईटी चाहिए। तो आईटी में, और अभी जो मार्केट है आईटी में बहुत जॉब्स हैं। ओके सर, नाउ आई मूव इनटू आईटी में डिपार्टमेंट। तो आईटी इज नॉट अबाउट ओनली एप्लीकेशन डेवलपमेंट, IT is about application development, IT is about application securities, IT is about IT sales, IT is about business analyst, जो लोग प्रोजेक्ट को थिंक करते हैं, सोचते हैं, business solution providers. IT is about like procurement is there, and IT support service is there, infra is there, networking is there. तो IT में काफी वैरायटी ऑफ फील्ड्स हैं, so आप कुछ भी चूज कर सकते हैं। जरूरी नहीं कि हमें एप्लीकेशन डेवलपमेंट में जाना है हमेशा। आप सिक्योरिटी में जा सकते हैं, आप इंफ्रा में जा सकते हैं, आप क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग में जा सकते हैं, आप सेल्स में जा सकते हैं। तो काफी फील्ड्स हैं। और मैं नए स्टूडेंट्स को जो अभी 3rd ईयर फाइनल में, उनको रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि अभी जो नया टेक्नोलॉजीज चल रही हैं, लाइक वो लोग अपने आप को एक्सप्लोर करें, लाइक 5G इज कमिंग, IoT इज कमिंग, IoT is coming, then AI is coming, artificial intelligence, RPA is coming, robotics is coming, and then there's VR is coming. So many opportunities are coming in IT, and so many languages are also coming. पहले कैसा सर Java, .NET वही चलता था. It's not like that. Now you have open source. खुद ही डाउनलोड करो, सीधे कोडिंग करना स्टार्ट करो. You have YouTube platform, you have Udemy. There are numbers of platforms are there where you can see the videos and you can learn ourselves, right sir? तो इसके अंदर ओपन सोर्स में एंगुलर है, रिएक्ट जेएस है, रिएक्ट नेटिव्स एप्स हैं. तो स्टूडेंट्स के पास अभी इतना स्कोप, इतना वाइड स्कोप है आईटी में कि वो कहीं पे भी अपने आप को प्लेस कर सकते हैं. पहले इतना नहीं है कि सिर्फ जावा, सी और C++ तक रहना है. देयर मल्टीपल लैंग्वेजेस एंड मल्टीपल स्कोप. और अभी जो नया आ रहा है दैट इज क्लाउड, तो क्लाउड को उनको पढ़ना चाहिए थोड़ा. तो दिस आर द फील्ड्स ऑफ आईटी. So that's it. Yeah.
Very good, Manish. I think what you did is gave a very wonderful overview of the technologies and skills which are required, plus the roles which are available. Manish, thank you very much. But
Thank you, sir.
I wanted to build on what you said. आपने जो बोला उसके ऊपर में I wanted to go to Sanjay, who is really working on some of these new technologies. So Sanjay, which are the new technologies which are popular and in demand now, and what are the skills which are needed to work in those new technologies and new skill areas?
Sure. Thanks, Pat. So I think Manish mentioned a couple of good points in there in terms of technology. So AI bataya, blockchain bataya, IoT bataya, mobility, cloud. So these are all the things which everybody knows that ki ye ho raha hai. Lekin isko kaise kiya jaye? I think that's the challenge, right? It's not about ki everybody reads. But before that, we won the first gold after 100 years. So congratulations, India.
I just saw that. Yeah.
I just saw that as well.
Yeah. Cheers to New Year.
Yes. So one of the key things what I'm seeing in AI. So I have my own company which does AI in supply chain and finance, and जब मैं skill set देखता हूँ तो it's not very complicated. Python actually is a very, very easy language to learn. Anybody can learn Python. You download the package, you can start anyway. और इतने सारे courses free में available है दुनिया में. You just Google it, Coursera चले जाओ, Udemy चले जाओ, कहीं भी चले जाओ. इतने course हैं, you can just pick it up. So if you want to do something in AI at this point of time, Python is a language, right? So you need to pick up that. Now, what can you do in AI, right? So there are so many areas which are there. You can do as simple as prediction or forecasting of how the demand is, right? You can do computer vision, which is looking at the images. आप जो capture करते हो, आप Google को पैसे दे रहे हो ना उनका model train करने के लिए. Capture जब करते हो, ये cat है, dog है या traffic है, you are just paying. You're doing that work for them, labeling the data. So computer vision is there. A lot of people are doing in retail store में जाके picture लेते हैं, उसमें देखते हैं अच्छा ये P&G का कितना माल है, Coca-Cola कितना माल है. So you can see that there are so many applications, and one of the key things which you have to remember is AI हर जगह होगा. It will be in the phone. It will be in any action you do. It will be today you do a look at recommendation system. You know that there is a AI behind it. If you want to do matching of two products, AI. So itne sare use cases hai ki you cannot escape AI, right? Now the flip side of that is that somebody who was doing that job before will be, uska job chala jayega. So which means that reskilling is also required for people to look at it. So for example, jab hum kuch karte hain, so we have automated a process for invoice classification, which means jo 5 log lagte the unko ab ek aadmi se kaam ho jata hai, uska kaam sirf ye dekhna hai ki kahan pe error aaya hai, right? So those kind of things becomes applicable. Now AI can be applied to manufacturing industry, it can be applied to supply chain, banking, sab jagah chal raha hai. So which means that this is the technology which is going to stay for at least next 7 to 8 or 10 years, ऐसा लगता है मुझे, till quantum computing जब थोड़ा और आ जाएगा तो then it will take the dynamics slightly differently, right? The other aspect is blockchain. So blockchain में सबसे बड़ा advantage है कि if you look at the world is if I use a Hindi word dalla, there are a lot of middlemen in the chain. How do you remove that, right? So that's the job of removing the middlemen is what blockchain can do, because आज central bank इसलिए है क्योंकि you can trust them, right? But if there are no trust required or trustless system which is available, then that's where the blockchain can be really helpful. So there are very, very big use cases in specifically in supply chain finance, where bill of lading or your letter of credit transactions which are happening, all of these are put on blockchain, and very, very large companies are kind of managing that. So it's a fantastic technology going into production a little bit in some of the use cases, but फिर भी थोड़ा सा I think it will take some more time to become mainstream in there. The problem is that it requires many people to come together. See, the other technologies one can implement straight away, but blockchain you need many stakeholders to come together. So you have consortiums of banks and so on and so forth working towards that, and that becomes a challenge in there. Blockchain ka other use case is track and trace. A lot of pharma companies where there are a lot of counterfeit products which are happening. So usme agar if I can tag some things, then I can see that this particular medicine which is coming, what was the pedigree, kahan se aaya hai, traceability kaisa hai. So you can do that through blockchain. So quite an interesting technology, multiple use cases. You can have your KYC, jo know your customer hai, can be on blockchain and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting technology, but thoda sa technical ज़्यादा है ये. इसमें आपको solidity, इसमें आपको Ethereum, and the concept is actually something which you have never learned before. ठीक है, let's we start from there. ये जो concept है इसके अंदर cryptography हम कभी नहीं सीखते, मतलब even look at all the branches, you need to know what is cryptography, what is encryption, you need to all know, so you need to learn from basic. So it's a good opportunity to do that now because you're young, so you can actually pick it up. किसी ने और नहीं किया नहीं, तो this becomes a good area for you to kind of work on, right? The third one is IoT. Just hold me on time, Prad, because I can speak quite a bit. So
No, sure. I think that would be the third most important area. If you can talk about IoT, that will be wonderful.
Yeah. So IoT is so I actually used to sell IoT for Oracle, and it's a hard problem. Okay, so the hard problem इसलिए है क्योंकि if you imagine कि आपको software सीखना है, आपको hardware सीखना है, आपको networking सीखना है, अगर इन सब का मसाला बना दिया तो that is IoT, because you need to have a sensor which is hardware that can capture the information and do certain things. Then you need software to embed into it and say कि ये sensor में क्या हो रहा है. See, if you go to oil field, अगर ONGC का अगर अंकलेश्वर में जाओगे, there are dry docks where you see what they call as remote terminal units, RTUs. That was like a a device on the field where it could capture the information and use that for that. In fact, मेरा पहला project was ONGC where we did maintenance management system. So these technologies were there, but now the sensor have become so small that it can be anywhere, vibration sensor and so on and so forth, temperature you want to measure. तो ये आप कहीं भी डिवाइस में लगा सकते हो, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में लगा सकते हो, कहीं भी लगा सकते हो, and then you can capture that information and use it for variety of purposes. Vibration में sensor है, temperature है, bearing गर्म हो गया, and all that stuff you can actually look at it. Now उसके लिए सॉफ्टवेयर चाहिए, and software at the edge. So that's called edge computing. कि उसी में अगर वो decision ले सकता है, उसी में machine learning लगा के can I make the decision rather than trying going to the cloud back? Can I do that? That's what the edge computing is all about. So IoT hardware है, IoT software है. अब अगर उसको connect करना है cloud से, because मुझे को पता तो चलना चाहिए क्या हो रहा है वहाँ पे. So that's where the networking element comes into the picture. So it's a amalgamation of all these technologies put together, and that is why it's a hard problem, because people have knowledge of how to manage hardware. You will have people who have understood कि hardware कैसे होता है क्या, and the layers of hardware. But this is all 7 layers of networking which you need to learn and need to work through that. So that's why IoT is a hard problem. But if somebody invests time in it, think of this way: Apple is an IoT device, right? So let's just put it that way. And how much money they are making, right? So they are in trillions. So you can imagine when you learn these things to put together, that's where now the technologies are available, that how to have an open source edge computing and so on and so forth, so you can start putting in there also. So these are 3 things which I thought are important. Then mobility and cloud, everybody knows, so I'm not going to touch upon it, but the idea is that this is where things are moving in the industry from my perspective.
Right. No, Sanjay, very good. I made note of 3 things, and one probably we put it on the parking lot, but I think later we come back to it. So AI you spoke about. You spoke about blockchain, and you spoke about the IoT, Internet of Things, which Manish very nicely also explained to everyone, and what is needed to learn about these 3. But cloud also is very important. We'll come back to that also in later. But let me go to Sulabh now. And Sulabh, I think if there are 2 sectors which are getting increasingly popular, जिनके बारे में सब पिछले खास करके 1.5 साल के अंदर में बहुत ज़्यादा डिमांड बढ़ी is healthcare as well as supply chain. Especially in this year, supply chain disruptions have actually made everyone spend most of their time on, rather than selling, on fulfilling, right? So how about these 2 sectors? What are the key trends in healthcare as well as in supply chain? And what is the scope you see for professionals from our GESU in these 2 sectors?
Okay, thanks, Pradyum. So let me start with the healthcare, and I'll start with the very specific field of healthcare, which is healthcare economics and outcome research, because this is the area where Radiance has invested last 2 years, and we have seen a lot of growth in this area, right? Now, पहले IT trend बताने के पहले I'll discuss about what is healthcare economics and outcome research. So इसका acronym है HEOR. And what it actually does is it does the planning, budgeting, and spending of healthcare, right? So different types of decision makers हैं, जैसे government है, insurance companies हैं, payers हैं, healthcare providers हैं, hospitals हैं. If they want to compare the various treatment options, right, which are available to solve or help in a particular disease, right, those treatment options, you can compare it on cost, effectiveness, right? And benefit. So more from economics point of view, as well as from the clinical results point of view. So just a simple सा example देता हूँ इसका use case कि जैसे अभी कोरोना आया, and if I as a healthcare provider or as a government, if I want to compare various vaccines, right, on spread of infectious disease, which is corona, right, then I can compare it, and also I can compare it from the cost and effectiveness and budget point of view, right? I can also compare non-pharmacological interventions. Non-pharmacological intervention कैसे हो सकते हैं? जैसे आप बोल रहे हैं कि social distancing, right? या mask को पहनना, या you know, restrictions on the travel, how it impacts on the overall disease pattern of corona, right? So ये सारी चीज को study करने के लिए we use HEOR, Healthcare Economics and Outcome Research. So that's the use case of HEOR. It's used in various disease, right? Be it infectious disease, or be it you know, terminal diseases like cancer and type 2 diabetes, those kind of things, right? Now, why it is so important? So reason it is so important, as we have seen last 2 years with the spread of corona and other infectious diseases, right? Healthcare spending is increasing. Even without corona in picture for last 2 years, US spending on healthcare was close to $4 trillion, which is close to like 50% of world spending. World spending on healthcare is sorry, US spending on the healthcare is $4 trillion, and the world spending is close to $8 trillion, right? So on an average, if you do the math, US spend $12,000 per year on every person on healthcare, right? Now, to do the economic evaluation of that healthcare spending is very important, right? So that's where this is a growing field. अब इसमें IT कैसे आता है कि, you know, healthcare is facing the similar problem as rest of the other industries. Huge amount of data sitting in segregated application, and data synthesis is a huge challenge, right? So that's where IT comes into picture. Healthcare was always a slow starter in adopting the cloud application, but now they have started doing that. So that's one of the field where most of the application, right, they are moving towards cloud. Having skills on Azure or Amazon is always handy, right? From data synthesis point of view, I've seen in last 10 years, especially when you see these mathematical models, right? Whether you see the mathematical models about infectious disease or about a policy decision that a government has to take to control the control a particular disease or improve the healthcare, you need a mathematical models, right? And for those writing those mathematical models, various languages are used, be it Python, be it R, right? There are various tools that are used like MATLAB, Mathematica, right, SAS and SPSS. So having a hands-on knowledge in those tools can be very handy, right? I have seen specifically in healthcare, interestingly, R is more popular than Python. And it's very difficult to actually get a resource. So what we typically do is we hire resources who are good in Python and then train them in R, okay, right? R is more adaptable in US universities. Testing and doing an automated testing, that is also having a growing importance in healthcare, right? Use of bots and all that to replace the manual testing, Selenium and all that, right? Cloud applications I already talked about. In fact, most of our applications currently we are moving it on Amazon or Azure. For front end we use Angular, React, and for you know, database. Typically for such kind of applications, we use NoSQL database like MongoDB or Amazon DynamoDB and all that kind of stuff. So these are the various skills that are used, right, in healthcare economics and outcome research. The most important thing that I've seen is the knowledge of math. जब मैं इंजीनियरिंग पढ़ता था तो मुझे समझ में नहीं आता था कि 5th सेमेस्टर तक मैथ का क्या इंपॉर्टेंस है, राइट? क्यों पढ़ाई जाती है, और वो मैथ का एग्जैक्ट एप्लीकेशन मैं आज देख रहा हूँ पिछले 4-5-6 सालों में, स्पेशली इन डेटा साइंस, राइट? हम जो डिफरेंशियल इक्वेशंस पढ़ते थे, मेरे को कभी भी समझ में नहीं आया कि उस डिफरेंशियल इक्वेशन का क्या यूज है, क्या करेंगे हम उस डिफरेंशियल इक्वेशन का, जो हम स्कूल में पढ़ते थे और इंजीनियरिंग में पढ़ते थे. अभी वो इन्फेक्शनस डिजीज मॉडलिंग के लिए डिफरेंशियल इक्वेशंस यूज होती है, right? So math is very important. People who have done MSc in statistics or applied mathematics, in fact, there is a lot of opportunity for them to get into data science and machine learning, right? I think, in my opinion, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science is very less about programming. It's more about your knowledge of mathematics and applied mathematics, right? I have seen a lot of doctors and physicians changing their career and becoming a biostatistician in healthcare. I'm working with a lot of doctors, PhD, who are all into data science and machine learning, and they have very less programming knowledge, almost close to beginner level, but they are amazing data scientists, right? So that is another thing that I've seen. That's pretty much about the healthcare. Now let's switch it to supply chain, right? Supply chain and optimization. So for those people who have actually done their, say, for example, engineering in mechanical or non-IT field, and then worked in the core industry, right? Like I did, I started my career with the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, as a space scientist. I worked there for almost close to 3 years. And my job was predominantly into manufacturing of satellite payloads, right? So I was working in production planning and manufacturing department there. And then after that, I worked for Carrier Aircon in air conditioning. So after 4 years, right, then I switched into IT. So people who have spent 4 or 5 years or 10 years, or even some who have spent 15 years, have become a domain expert, right? Have no programming knowledge, but they can actually switch into IT. Things like they can become a domain expert in ERP, right? System integration, integrator ka jo kaam hota hai, where they go to the client side, right? And do the solution design, collect the requirements, right? And do a functional, play a functional role. Typically, domain experts are preferred, be it in supply chain domain, be it in HR, be it in marketing, be it in finance, right? Domain experts are always important. I've also seen supply chain experts, domain experts getting into product development. अब जैसे सैनी सर की ने कुछ examples दिए, right? People I've seen where they are manufacturing experts and they are getting into product development also. And nowadays there is a growing use of IoT sensors and AIML in ERP as well. So that's another area where I've seen these domain experts getting into. So that's pretty much the summary of healthcare and supply chain experts getting into IT.
Sulabh, thank you very much. I think that was a very comprehensive overview और एक बहुत बड़ी गुत्थी जो हम सबके मन में थी, मेरे दिल में तो थी कि मैथ्स क्यों पढ़ते हैं हम, और नहीं पढ़ने से क्या फायदे होते हैं, नहीं पढ़ने से क्या नुकसान होते हैं, वो भी आज गुत्थी आपने सुलझा दी. I think very
interesting point add करूंगा सर कि we were working on a very large pharmaceutical company, Merck. They had they wanted to develop a mathematical model for infectious disease, right? And for that mathematical model, we have to use differential equation, and we were using a software called Mathematica for that, right? तो मैंने mathematics अभी पिछले 6 महीने में जाके वापस से advanced differential equations और integral पढ़ी, right? And you'll not believe it, I studied it from a guy who is a medical doctor, physician, who after 20 years he changed his field as a biostatistician, और उसने मुझे mathematics पढ़ाई. So that you can imagine the amount of different people from different domain getting into different technologies, right?
Well, that's really good. And I think another important point that I noted is the importance of data science. So आज statistical methods हम पढ़ते हैं engineering में कुछ पर, लेकिन I don't think it is sufficient, and that is something that students can also explore. And I think Manish is also adding some more thoughts on the chat for the students. But let me move on to Amit. Amit, there are many ways in which the technology companies and their work, what they do, can be classified or segmented. But one of the core ways, and we have been talking a lot about application development, but one of the core ways in which we can also classify this is by product development and services. So, and which is what you've done in Microsoft, also in Google now. Can you talk about the product development and what skills are important based on what you have done and also what you observed? And what does a day-to-day job look like for a product development engineer?
Sure. Yeah. So as in the start, Manish very brilliantly described, like in general, like what different options, like oppositors are there in the area, and then kya areas hai jahan pe like students can go, and like even different ways of like looking at these companies, how you can segment them, like by different technologies or by different like hardware versus software and so on. So I think one of the area or one of the way to look at it is like if you divide, let's say, these companies are some who are developing products and so on, and that because I have worked in a couple of these companies, so I will speak from my experience perspective, as you mentioned. So I think one thing that with the product development is that these companies mostly try to look at, say, some kind of generic problem that is applicable as compared to, let's say, solving a specific problem for, let's say, a specific client or a specific company. So they try to pick up, let's say, a generic problem, and then they sort of look at this problem, and then obviously they try to look at if the problem is at the scale or not, like how many different areas there are, how many different kind of users are there, or businesses are there where it is touching, and then they try to build a solution. Obviously, there will be many other competitors also who will be like in the same area. For example, recently we have seen with this pandemic, like suddenly this remote work has become very important. And then now we see that a lot of companies, like for example, Zoom, we can all know, right? In the last 1.5 years, we heard about a lot about Zoom, and then how its user, like once I was looking at the graph, like how the number of users who are using like basically this platform has been growing. And then there are many, like for example, from Microsoft you have Skype for Business, from Google you have Meet, and so on. So there will be like a lot of other companies also will be focusing in the same area. So coming to like the product development part, basically you identify a problem which is sort of either it's like timeless problem, which is like always people will be doing, or it is something like more specific with the future, looking at the future thing, or the current need is becoming important. So they try to like sort of identify that problem, and then what they would try to do is they would try to think of a solution which is applicable at scale. So most of the time, like in these companies, I look at that whenever you try to actually solve a particular piece, they say, oh, okay, what you're doing now is probably okay if you're doing it as a POC or something on a small set of users, but like are you sure that it can work at the scale also, and so on. So these are like some of the skills, like I would say that people, like when they are targeting this kind of companies, to think about. Like one thing is like look at a problem holistically. Like for example, what is like the current thing? Like I know that like there are many parts involved. Like for example, there are researchers, UX researchers, there are like product managers and so on. And like we think always that the problem would be coming from somewhere. But I think one of the things that I have noticed is like if you're not looking at the large problem, then maybe if you're focusing on a small piece of that problem also. So for example, let's say you're working on improving or solving a single piece of that problem, and then you think it from like user's perspective or like from the business perspective. So I think that is one of the things that I've seen that this company's value. In fact, this becomes some sort of part of the interview process also. And then you look at like how you can solve this particular problem at scale. I think other thing that you would probably looking at is like yeah, there are other things like performance and cost and other kind of factors are also in there. That people would be trying to say that we should optimize that because of the competition and so on. But I would say like the primary thing that you should be focusing on is like whether you can solve at scale, whether it's technically sound or not, or whether it's like applicable long term or not.
Okay, so Amit, if I capture the essence, is problem solving is the key skill on top of your technical skills you might have, right? I think how do you, I think that, and how to develop that? I mean, if I can probe you a little bit on that, how to develop problem solving ability?
Yes, so I think if we are looking at like for example, so one thing is like how do you prepare for the interviews and that. So that is like a different thing. But in general, if let's say you're interested in like how do you develop those skills, again, like I have to speak from my experience or like the folks I have interacted with. I think one of the good ways to look at like these different I would say like apart from obviously the studies that we do in the classes and like the theoretical things that we're reading and so on, but I think one of the good way is to look at like this kind of different competitions or so for example, coding competitions that are happening around. Like I think when I was in college, I was not much aware about that. Obviously the internet was also not that prominent and available. Like we used to go to cyber cafes to actually sort of get the internet, or I think in the later years, like third year or final year, we got it in the college also, like in our computer lab. But now people have these things like readily available at their places. So लोगों ने मतलब एक तो ये कि आप इंटरनेट पे देखिए कि कहाँ पे आपको ऑप्शंस मिल रहे हैं जहाँ पे कि आप पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हैं. लाइक काफी सारे ऑनलाइन कॉम्पिटिशंस होते हैं, नॉट ओनली कोडिंग कॉम्पिटिशंस बट ऑल्सो लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल दिस काइंड ऑफ आइडिया सबमिशन काइंड ऑफ थिंग और डेवलपिंग दैट आइडिया काइंड ऑफ थिंग. So अगर आप वहाँ पे जाते हैं, you try to develop that idea, you try to attend those sessions and so on, and then you will get to listen from other people also, like कि लोग क्या सोच रहे हैं, उस प्रॉब्लम को किस पर्सपेक्टिव से देख रहे हैं, उसके बारे में आगे तक कैसा सोच रहे हैं. मे बी हम लोग अभी सोच रहे हैं कि हमको जो गिवन प्रॉब्लम है वो कैसे, लेकिन लोग जनरली उसको जैसे एक जनरल कॉमन टर्म होती है कि 10x करके सोचने की कोशिश करते हैं कि हम हाउ वी कैन डू इट 10x. So I think that is very good place for a college student to actually go and explore those kind of things. So later on, I can share more details about like what kind of those platforms are available. But ये कि अगर आप इस टाइप के कॉम्पिटिशन्स को देखोगे, इस टाइप के ऑनलाइन चैलेंजेस को देखोगे, इस टाइप की एक्टिविटीज में पार्टिसिपेट करोगे, तो वहाँ पे यू कैन गेट गुड अपॉर्चुनिटी ऑफ लाइक सॉर्ट ऑफ डेवलपिंग दोस स्किल्स. earlier कि there are a lot of other online platforms also जहाँ पे कि आप theoretical knowledge gain कर सकते हो, जैसे Coursera है, Vesti है. तो यहाँ पे there are different courses. वहाँ पे you can look at even reviews and ratings of the courses also कि कौन से for a beginner, for expert or intermediate person, and then how people are liking it, not liking it. So from there you can actually get a lot of details around it.
Very good, Amit. Apart from these very well-known platforms, if there is anything else, please put in the chat box so that it can stay with the participants. Let me move on and talk to Ashutosh. So Ashutosh, there are always buzzwords, right? And used to be in management when we were in college, and now in IT. Agile and DevOps. I think these are the two big buzzwords in IT industry. But what exactly is agile development, and how agile is related to DevOps? If you can build on that, and then if I can also add to another question, that if any of the Gesuites, they want to build a career in IT industry, how can they get the skills and knowledge required for agile and DevOps to make sure that they are industry ready when they want to get into the IT industry? So what it is and how to be prepared for that?
Yeah. Sure, sir. So I think this is very good questions, and this very good question. And yeah, please stop me if I exceed the allocated time.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah.
We have a lot of time. This is a very important part of the discussion today.
Yeah. So agile, I'll just give a few examples, why it is important. So we'll definitely go into agile in software development. So if I start with agile, if you look at the dictionary meaning, it's the ability to move quickly and easily. In terms of software development, it is like ability for a team to deliver value to the customer, right? Value to the customer faster and probably better than the competition, right? And especially in these uncertain times, right? Especially after the pandemic hit us in 2020, this is even more important for us to be agile. So agile, another aspect of agile is to respond to the emerging changing situations quickly, right? So I'll take few examples. When the companies were not agile, what was the problems they had to face, right? So if we take one example of Nokia. So Nokia, once upon a time, it was a market leader, right? With more than probably 80% of the market share. And then with the advent of all these digital and touch screen phones, it did not sense, that something is coming up in the market, right? So it did not respond to change. And the outcome, what happened, that, the company was almost sold out and or probably sold out, right? So a company which once upon a time had 80% of market share, was sold out. Another example, if we look at is the Kodak example, right? Kodak story, many people talk about it, right? So Kodak also, once upon a time, it was one of the industry leaders, right? Probably with 85% or more market share for photography, camera, and all those related stuff, analog cameras. And again, it also did not, sense, okay, there is some change in the market and we have to respond. They did not do it, and ultimately, the company got bankrupt with all these digital phones. So now, be agile and to respond to change. It is no more a option, right? It is like by default we have to be agile, right? And same applies in software industry also. So gone are the days where we work to deliver a requirement or to deliver a feature. We take 6 months of time, because we don't have that much of time now. So agile doesn't mean something which can be delivered in 6 months will be delivered in 1 month, right? But the beauty of agile, I should say, or the main feature of agile is to deliver incrementally. So if I take example of since we have Manish also from banking, right? So say if a new bank is coming up and they want to onboard on internet banking, they want to create their own internet banking platform, right? They cannot wait for a year time, to create all the features, right? Whether it is, if I take example of online transfer, right? Ki NEFT, RTGS, IMPS, UPI, whatever, right? So they cannot wait कि अच्छा जब मेरे सारे फीचर बन जाएंगे तब मैं डिलीवर करूंगा, क्योंकि by the time they deliver this, probably they will lose lot of market share, right? So agile majorly it talks about delivering incremental value. कि अच्छा सबसे पहले you deliver something which has most business value, and who will decide कि which particular feature has the maximum business value? It is decided by the business or the product owner. So product owner, for everyone's understanding, he is the person who represents business, right? So if we are a IT team, and if we have say a bank like say American bank, so American bank will have one person, product owner. He will be sharing the requirement and the team will deliver it. So incremental value delivery is the key crux of agile, right? And most important, right? So now this is all about theory ki acha abhi aap deliver karo, incremental value deliver karo, fast karo, but how do we do it, right? So agile is kind of a philosophy, right? So basically if we look at agile, it is based on 4 values and 12 principles, and it prefers or it gives more importance to face-to-face communication rather than following the process. It is not it is saying okay, you don't follow any process, you don't follow any documentation, but majorly it is about more interaction of people. Then there are another values also about the documentation. So I don't think we can cover all those values and principles. I'll be sharing the link, but it is very important, right? So agile, it is majorly talks about what to do, right? If someone is giving me a recommendation ki, okay boss, you reduce 10 kg of weight, right? So this is like what part, but how to do? So अभी ये तो easy है बोल दिया कि हाँ agile हो जाओ, but कैसे करो? तो उसके लिए there are a lot of frameworks available in the market. So one of the most popular framework is Scrum. So which is majorly used in many of the industry, where we create a sprint of say few days, and even mature companies have the duration very small. So in every sprint, right? So if I have a sprint of 3 days, I will deliver something which can be consumed by the customer. So here the incremental value delivery will come into picture. Every 3 days we are delivering something to the end customer. So yeah, so that is the crux of agile. And to the second question, right? DevOps, right? Ki how agile and DevOps are related, or what is the relation? So agile and DevOps, they complement each other, right? So now agile may we are saying okay, every 3rd day we will deliver something, but how do we do it, right? Because we have to code, we have to test, and then we have to deploy. So DevOps, at a 50,000 feet level, DevOps is like merging 2 teams. So generally in industry, we used to have 2 teams. One is development, which would work on the coding part, and another would be the operations team, which will work on majorly, to take care of the infrastructure, to take care of the deployment and all. So now DevOps, the concept is कि okay, you merge these 2 teams. So it is not only कि अच्छा 4 लोग थे ops में, 4 dev में, दोनों को साथ में बिठा के काम करा दिया, right? It is not like that. It is कि okay, these people will work as a single team, and then they will deploy the required tools, right? And required automation tools. They will change the culture of the team and work as a team and deliver the value to the user and get early feedback. Okay, so this is how these 2 things work. And DevOps, if we look at one of the what I should say, one of the key area of DevOps is CI/CD. Many might have known this, right? Continuous integration and continuous delivery, continuous deployment, right? So it is like, it is not key you deliver it, you create something and then waiting for deployment in production. Okay, so there are tools available. One example is Jenkins, right? Where you check in the code, you run your pipeline. Now this pipeline will execute the test cases, right? Whether it is unit testing cases, functional testing cases, security related cases, all these test cases will be automated. That will save a lot of time, and then you can deploy in production. So even they have a mature model, called as DevSecOps, right? Which is something new in the market, where security also is part of the day-to-day, day-to-day activity. So yeah, so this is about DevOps. So both things, both Agile and DevOps, they go hand in hand, okay, to deliver end value to the customer faster and to get the early feedback. क्योंकि अभी पहले ऐसे होता था कि एक साल में हम कुछ डिलीवर कर रहे हैं, राइट? अभी वो उतना टाइम हमारे पास में है ही नहीं. We have to deliver something, get the feedback, and then improve upon. यदि कुछ change करना है तो you get the feedback and improve. So right, companies like Amazon and even Amit can talk about Google, right, which are very big companies. They have multiple deployments in a single day, right? So they have attained this level of maturity कि एक दिन में 50 deployment हो रहे हैं या उससे भी ज्यादा हो रहे हैं. I think that is the end state. And one important thing is कि this is about software delivery, right? So even our students, as you asked, right, कि students कैसे इसमें कर सकते हैं. So one thing is Agile में when you do Google, right, कि okay, I want to learn Agile, you will get lot of links, so best part is go through the Agile manifesto. So based on Agile manifesto, the complete Agile way of working is defined, and then there is a Scrum framework, right? So Scrum framework is based on Scrum guide. Okay, so it is a 22 or 26 page PDF which is available for free. You can download and go through it, and then try to implement it in your team, right? So if you are doing a project, right, we do final year project, try to implement Agile practices there, right? Okay, we will have a daily stand-up meeting. Okay, we will plan something for next 3 days rather than planning it for 6 months. Next 3 दिन में मैं क्या करने वाला हूँ, right? So उससे you will get the required attention. And I have seen this, when I visited few of the colleges, they do it, right? They implement Scrum. They work on their final year project or third year project. And then they deliver it really quick, and also they keep on changing the scope based on the ever changing market condition. क्योंकि ऐसा है कि आज if something is relevant today, it may not be relevant after 1 month, right? So we have to keep revisiting our scope also. That also cannot be fixed, at least for a long time, right? So I'll share the document link, what you can do to kickstart your journey. And as Pradyum sir mentioned in the beginning, we are also trying to have one session in GESU for at least computer science students or other interested students. So I'm in touch with TCS academic interface manager, and Shukla sir also is guiding us. So we'll definitely have some session for students to further expedite this journey. Yeah.
Shitosh, very, very good input. I think wonderful input that we should students should try to implement these already in their final year projects. I think that was a big takeaway. Whatever resources you mentioned, if you can also post the link in the chat box for students who are joining, they can already start to look at this. And I think we should and must take you up on the offer to bring in not yourself, but also the resources from the academic interface to GESU so that students can benefit from that. And I'm very, very sure that the university and college will take up this opportunity. Thanks a lot. It was really, really good.
Sure,
मेरे को on a lighter note, जब when you mentioned कि ये 3 दिन में डिलीवर करने वाला है, तो मेरे को अपनी PL की याद आ गई कि यार वो हर 3 दिन में ही सारी चीजें जो साल भर में करनी होती हैं वो 3 दिन में डिलीवर करनी पड़ती हैं. तो वो मेरे ख्याल से नाम बदल गया है, लेकिन करना तो पहले भी पड़ता था, किसी और तरीके से करना पड़ता था. I had questions for Amit and Sani, but let me move on to Loku first, and then I come back to you guys. Yeah. So Loku, Loken, if you're there, I don't see you. Loken?
I'm here.
हाँ, अच्छा, तुम्हारा वीडियो मुझको दिखाने. Loken, you have had an interesting
Can you hear
journey.
me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me all right?
Okay. Yes.
You are on. हाँ, बिल्कुल, बढ़िया. So, Loken, what we wanted to understand, right. I think you're calling on 2 devices. That's why there is a lag, but that's okay. But let me, Loken, ask you a very interesting question. That you had an amazing journey. You were working for somebody else, and you are working for yourself, just like Sulabh and Sani is. Is it possible to make a career without actually looking for a job? Right? One path is you work, and then you actually build a career, and then start working yourself. And what are the ways, if you want, somebody wants to be an entrepreneur to get started? And if there are any practical tips that or ideas that people, our students or alumni can start to explore already.
I hope everybody.
Your voice is
There was
breaking.
some lag in.
थोड़ा lag है. अभी ठीक है.
Sorry, I think I'll go ahead. Very important. Entrepreneurs.
Look, and your voice is breaking off.
I must say
we can only hear every other word. So आवाज clear नहीं आ रही है.
Okay, so can you just give me some time? I'll change my location and probably we'll start again. In the meanwhile, you can ask somebody else.
Loken, can you please try just using your audio, not video?
Okay. I think Loken probably has just moved to another part of home. I was in Pune as well, just like Loken is, and Pune probably is, if you rank it on the order of good internet connectivity, is probably right at the bottom in the country. So let me then.
Yeah,
yes,
just a minute. Can you hear
yes,
me? Is it better now?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Perfect. So I moved closer to the my Wi-Fi. So sorry for all disturbance. As I said, the half of the panelists here are entrepreneur, and while I would assume that we were a little late in starting, and but with our experience and what we talked, probably some of you may start much earlier than this, and which would be a great thing for all of you, right? So you asked me a question that how can somebody start, or can you have a career without looking for a job? So the best thing one can have is, like, if you, instead of looking for a job, if you can give job, that's the best thing you can do for society and for your family and everybody. So, and the good thing about IT is that it's a leveler, so there is no barrier to entry as such. All you need is a laptop and internet connections, right? And thanks to people like Ambani ji, who has given Jio to everybody, so the penetration has started and people can afford to have a laptop. Unlike in our times, it was a difficult thing. And the overall ecosystem around you is very good. You have a very good ecosystem of startups in India. There are there's a Startup India department, and they also support entrepreneurship in a big way. So there's a regular way to get into entrepreneurship if you can find a problem to solve, because entrepreneurship is all about solving a problem, finding it, and then trying to solve that problem. So, and then you have systems like you get special tax benefit and all, but beside that you also have a whole lot of incubators, agile angel investors, and venture capitalists coming into India and all. Then you can also go to program like Y Combinators and all. So that's the very regular way. And there are one of the area which I look at, which will grow, is the SaaS, which is software as a service. Like, gone are the day when you would probably spend years creating some software like SAP and all. Now you can just create something and you deliver it very fast. Like, within a year, you should be able to launch something, because lots of small pieces are available. You just have to put together and create a product which can be sold as a service. And all the enabling infrastructure is there. It's available at very low cost. In fact, companies like Amazon also gives you credit to try out their systems and all. So all I'm saying is that the environment is so good right now. This is the perfect time to start. But obviously, entrepreneurship comes with its own challenges. So it does come with risk. So make sure that you are either very passionate and you have patience and perseverance to continue that. It may take some time, but the rewards are really high. So that's one part. And second is, if you can't go to the big the mainstream stuff, you can always try. There are various ways to get into smaller ways. You don't need to create another SAP or Salesforce. but you can always create an application on which works on top of a platform like Salesforce or a platform like Slack, and platform like Jira and all. You just have to create some small, and then there are app stores, Play Store is there. You just create an app and get on to that. There are many entrepreneurs who have done big in SaaS field, and we call it micro SaaS also now, which is like creating small plugins. I'll give you an example of a person from Bhopal. So he just created a appointment scheduling plugin on WordPress. So its name is Appointee. And then there are many alternatives to that. They are among the top 10 guys in that particular field. And his revenue is like more than $1 million or so. And he's still doing it from Bhopal, right? Then obviously there are other people who have become much more successful. There's a company known as Postman, right? He started that API testing thing as a side hustle, just to test his software. Then he realized that API testing itself is a big thing. He got funding and now he moved to San Francisco. That's a unicorn stuff. And so this is the entrepreneurship. But besides this also, if you want to do, you can do freelancing, for example. Because again, you have access to market, you have access to talent. There are sites like, freelancing site, Upworks and all. But you also need to have certain skills, which is sellable. So you need to go deep into few areas. Some of the low hanging fruit, we can say, like you can always get into web development, it doesn't take too much of effort and all. You can learn basic web technologies because most of the software is going to be developed over the web, and they will be delivered over the web because the computing is available on the mobile and all. So that's another area. If you can't do programming, then there are other areas like you can get into digital marketing, for example. So lots of people need Facebook marketing, Google Analytics, and there are enough courses available, enough free material available to get started. And I think this is the area where if you are a student, you could probably start from third year and start exploring all these options. So when you come by when you complete your degree and all, you would probably know lots of stuff which can pay your bills. So even if you're trying something big on the side, you can try all these things, freelancing stuff. So there are enough ways in which you could go forward and chase your dream. And don't forget to start any internship in a startup and all. That will give you best experience and all. Right? Yeah. So I think that's my advice to people who want to get into entrepreneurship. And there are enough examples available. We can have probably a full session having all of you available and more entrepreneurs from GESU talking about it.
I think that's a very good idea, Loken, that we should do a session just on entrepreneurs. In the meanwhile, if you have any tips on the resources, which the students can use to become an entrepreneur, you spoke about some freelancing website, you spoke about digital marketing, you spoke about startup, the government support. You can share some links in the chat. I think we should share those with the students so they can use it. But I also wanted to mention that you have been very proactively also offering students to become a part of the startup, your own startup, through internships. So I think that's also a wonderful idea that students should become part of startups. So that gives them that opportunity to learn and also become an entrepreneur themselves in future.
Yeah.
So I want to go back on that startup topic to Amit. Actually, and ask him a question which actually comes up very often, that many students think that अगर हम किसी बड़ी कंपनी में काम करते हैं उसके बहुत सारे फायदे हैं, उसका ब्रांड नेम है, उसका सीवी में अच्छा दिखेगा. कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि नहीं, स्टार्टअप में काम करना ज्यादा अच्छा है क्योंकि then you get a full overview and you are able to go deep, but at the same time you are able to go broad, right? You learn much more. So what is your experience? And if I mean, very importantly, किसी को अगर कोई स्टूडेंट चाहता है या एलुमनाई हमारा चाहते हैं कि वो किसी बिग नेम कंपनी में काम करे, गूगल में, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट में, अमेज़न में, so what is the how they can get prepared? What should they be preparing for?
Yes. So this is actually true, sir. Like ये right question है. I think this is not only at like the startup versus big company. Also, like I think when I was finishing my masters, the same question was like so some of the professor would try to actually push you towards like more academia ki if you want to do something more like after let's say your masters ki agar aapko PhD वगैरह pursue करना है, or if you want to do something else. And there also this often comes up whether you want to go in the industries versus whether you want to go more in academia, where you could probably do more of what you like or what you want instead of like focusing on ki what is profitable for a company. So and the same thing also goes with this case. Whether you want to work in a big company, jahan pe you would be probably a small cog in a big wheel, or a big machinery, or probably you would not get all the exposure. You will have a good brand name or something, but probably not as much experience as you want. And as Locus are describing, like if later on you want to say move on to something where you want to do your own thing, probably a broad experience would help you a lot more than like say being at a very specific thing and so on. And I have friends like who are working in startups also, and then like we also sometimes often discuss this thing. So I will talk from like maybe the big company point of view. This is true that you would be probably focusing on a small part of the problem. कि आप एक ही एरिया के ऊपर फोकस कर रहे हो, and it's up to you. You want to develop more understanding about the whole thing or not, but your day-to-day work probably will involve just focusing on a specific. लेकिन एक चीज जो मैंने नोटिस की सर, मोस्टली व्हेन आई टॉक टू माय फ्रेंड्स, कि आप उस स्पेसिफिक एरिया में भी काफी डीप जाते हो. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल आप देखते हो कि इसके एग्जैक्ट लाइक स्मॉल कॉर्नर केसेस जो कि मे बी कोई मतलब यू आर नॉट कटिंग कॉर्नर्स, बेसिकली यू आर ट्राइंग टू गो डीप. आप कोशिश करते हो कि इसमें हर एक चीज एड्रेस की जाए, बिकॉज कहीं ना कहीं व्हेन यू हैव अ लार्ज स्केल प्रॉब्लम तो कोई ना कोई स्मॉल केस कहीं ना कहीं हो ही जाता है, सामने आ ही जाता है कि दिस इज वेयर थिंग्स आर नॉट वर्किंग. सो आई वुड से कि वहां पे भी in terms of work you have option to try out different things and then like sort of go deep into the thing, apply your technical skill expertise to मतलब sometimes problem also changes a little bit कि जब आप 1000-2000 लोगों के लिए सॉल्व कर रहे हो वर्सेस लाइक मिलियन बिलियन रिक्वेस्ट के लिए सॉल्व कर रहे हो तो कैसे चेंज हो रहा है. तो वो चीज आई थिंक इज इम्पोर्टेंट. एंड माय एक्सपीरियंस इज लाइक इफ यू वर्क इन दिस कंपनीज, obviously you will be working on a small part of the problem, but you would have enough opportunity to sort of probably do more in-depth work there, or maybe sometime a little bit innovation also there at that small piece. Other good thing which is not probably related to technical thing, but more about people that I have noticed with these companies is you get to interact with a lot of like talented people on regular basis. So almost like you are floored on day-to-day basis with like, because there are so many talented people around. So there are good discussions, like even not only on the things that you are working on, but broadly also like other topics also, like obviously in technology. So and there is a lot to learn. So that is I think one of the good thing that I found as like I work with this companies. Now I think if somebody is interested in let's say joining these companies or let's say getting through the interview, तो मेरी advice ये होगी कि internet पे lot of material available है जिसमें कि लोग जनरली डिस्क्राइब देयर इंटरव्यू एक्सपीरियंस. एंड आई वुड से कि 90-95% वो स्पॉट ऑन भी है. लाइक अगर आप इन बिगर कंपनीज को टारगेट कर रहे हैं तो कि हाउ एग्जैक्टली यू शुड प्रिपेयर फॉर इट एंड व्हाट एग्जैक्टली यू शुड डू अराउंड देयर. बट जैसे कि मैं पिछले आंसर में भी कवर कर रहा था, आई थिंक दिस प्रोग्रामिंग कॉम्पिटिशंस वगैरह ये एक गुड प्लेटफॉर्म है जहाँ पे कि यू कैन गो एंड ट्राई आउट योर टेक्निकल स्किल्स एंड कि हाउ well you understand things. And it's not only about coding, like there are other platforms also where you can just like put up your idea or solution, or even sometimes submit a design also for a small problem. So इस type के platforms है जहाँ पे you can go and try your skills, try to solve those problems, build confidence and interact with people. And many of these companies also go to those platforms and try to look for people who are doing well there. तो आपको वहाँ से options मिल जाते हैं, opportunities मिल जाती है कि आप इन कंपनीज को टारगेट कर सकते हैं. उसके अलावा अभी काफी सारे इंटर्नशिप्स भी ऑनलाइन ऑफर होने लगी है कंपनीज में. तो मोस्ट ऑफ दिस कंपनीज के अपने ओन इंटर्नशिप वेबसाइट्स होती है जहाँ पे यू कैन गो, यू कैन अप्लाई. ऑब्वियसली देयर विल बी सम राउंड्स इनिशियली, मतलब कोडिंग टाइप के और समथिंग, सो यू हैव टू गो थ्रू दैट, यू हैव टू प्रिपेयर फॉर दैट. बट वो भी एक अच्छा ऑप्शन है कि यू टेक दैट इंटर्नशिप रूट, आप उस कंपनी के लिए थोड़ा कुछ काम करें एंड देन आफ्टर दैट देयर विल बी सम कन्वर्जन इंटरव्यू काइंड ऑफ थिंग. सो आप वो रूट ले सकते हैं.
वेरी गुड अमित, थैंक्स अ लॉट. एंड जो प्लेटफॉर्म्स आपने बोले कि जहां पर इन कंपनीज के इंटरव्यूज के लिए या प्रिपेयर करने के लिए अगर कुछ मटेरियल मिल सकता है, इफ यू कैन शेयर सम लिंक्स इन द चैट. Many of our panel members are sharing very good information in the chat, so we should save that and also share with the students later. पहले मनीष ने एक बहुत अच्छी information share की, लोकेन अभी share कर रहा है काफी अच्छी information. Let's make sure that we save those, and Amit, if you can share those platforms, it will be really helpful. Let me move on to Ashutosh and Manish. That apart from the technical skills that Amit just spoke about, what would be the other skills that you think the students, especially in the final year, should acquire, pre-final, final year should acquire, which will make them relevant to the market? So let me start with Manish and then move to Ashutosh. Manish, mute पे हो आप, right? Ashutosh, आप unmute कर सकते हो? Let me see if I can help you guys to unmute. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Ashutosh, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So yeah, so apart, I think technical skills, all the esteemed panelists very well covered it, right? So I think one more again emphasis which I would like to give again is on cloud is something which is very important now, and if you look at the platforms, right, especially Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, so they provide free subscription to students. So I think everyone should use that subscription, and try to deploy the applications which they are working on, especially if they are, say, creating a app or a website or something. At least when they use, they will learn, because going forward everything has to be on the cloud, right? We will get rid of all the data centers. At least the big companies and organizations, they are moving away from traditional data centers and moving towards cloud. So cloud is something which is very important. So all the three major providers, they provide student subscription. So everyone should use it and play around. Second thing which I feel is very important is the communication skill, because this is an area where we as a GSUite need a lot of improvement, because and it is not only about plain English, right? It is about how do we communicate, how do we convey our idea to the person to whom we are talking, right? Whether it is in an interview or discussion with the customer. So communication is something which everyone should focus on. And to do it right, so one good idea or one good option I see is Toastmasters Club. So GSU, we can have our own Toastmasters Club if it is not there. So it is, I think, an excellent platform where it allows us to fail, right, in front of everyone. Safest platform to fail, right? So there, it is like everyone is there to learn. So I strongly recommend joining Toastmasters Club. Also in college itself, if not Toastmasters, because of, say, fees or something, people can create their own group, and they can group on a particular day, and then they can talk on any random topic. So it will help them in improving their communication skills. So I think communication is something apart from technical, I think most of us have covered. So this is very important. And also, as I mentioned on the chat also, so try to execute the project in agile way. Okay, so Scrum Guide, if you go through, you will get a lot of understanding about the roles which are there. You can assign roles to yourself. Okay, one person could be Scrum Master, another could be development team, and one could be the one who is giving requirements. See, how are you moving? So that is going to help you a lot when you join any company, because nowadays companies are looking for agile ready talent, right? And another aspect is the DevOps thing. So easiest way to do is to create a CI/CD pipeline, and try to integrate the automation test cases, whether it is JUnit and Catalan, say, functional test cases, and try to deploy it via CI/CD pipeline. So that is something which they can do as part of their project. And also whatever is the branch, right, at least everyone should have elementary knowledge of programming. So whether it is Java or .NET, they can choose, but at least the elementary knowledge they should have, because when you go for interview, there is some knowledge is expected, right? And last point which I would like to mention is the quantitative and logic reasoning skill, right? So even if the person may not be able to write complete program, right, but at least if he's clear on the logic, कि अभी इंटरव्यू में बोल दिया कि ओके फेबोनिकी सीरीज का प्रोग्राम लिखो, तो सिंटेक्स हो सकता है कि कैंडिडेट को ना है, बट एटलीस्ट इफ ही इज गुड एट लॉजिक, he will get an edge. I think reasoning is another part which people should focus on. Yeah, that's it.
Very good, Ashutosh.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think Manish, do you have more to add? Any additional skills that you would?
Almost Ashutosh is explained very well, and he is bang on. Okay, but I like to add one more thing. Like freshers can do certifications also, so that they can filter their resume from the other competitive colleges. So theoretically hota hai, and then they can read Azure and then go for the if they read AWS, they go for AWS practitioner exam. If they read their studies on Microsoft.NET, then they go for the .NET certifications, so that there are more chances to get placement in companies like TCS, Cognizant, or all others. Yeah.
No, very good. I picked up a few gems from there. I think communication is extremely important, as Ashutosh mentioned, and regardless of which field you are in. I mean, sales is most important skill in whatever you do, right? And selling yourself probably is the most, you are the most important product, right? If you cannot sell your idea yourself to, whether you're working in IT or sales and marketing or engineering industry, I think the chances of succeeding will be less versus if you are able to sell yourself. So that's very important. And Toastmasters Club is a great idea, Ashutosh. And I think we should definitely, through Shukla sir, who is also in the audience today, see if we can help our students to install that. I do that in my company for youngsters who are coming in different countries. And they find it very, very useful, especially the newcomers who have hesitation in communication, or they are a little bit uncomfortable speaking in front of a large audience. So that's a wonderful point. And also I think Manish's point about building your CV, adding more substance to your CV through relevant certification, I think is extremely important. I would move to last couple of questions. Saini, I'll come back to you. And I think there was also a question from the audience, which is very relevant, that how somebody who has been in the non-IT field, like yourself, who was in the mechanical industry in Tata Steel, can build a career and move to the software industry. How should we do it, and what are the steps somebody can take?
Sure. So mine was a different era altogether. So today it's much different. I did my engineering in '92. So when I came out, the first time I saw a computer was in the it's not in mechanical engineering lab. It was in some room there where we were doing Fortran.
Electronics mein hote the computer.
CAD CAM lab mein tha, sir.
I know that it was there, but electronics वाले को खुश होना चाहिए थोड़ा सा. So when I came out, I actually joined Tata Steel, and I was on the shop floor, very much like Sulabh. I was on the shop floor, production shift in charge, production in charge for cold rolling mill in Tata Steel. And at that time, it was very interesting that that plant was actually an automated one, where the culmination of electrical electronics, in this huge Siemens drives and automated PLC automation was there. And I said, okay, this is something unique. And I got interested in there because when I was running this mills, it was kind of, you can manipulate the data through the computers and use that. So I said, this is very interesting area. And so I decided to move on from mechanical side on the shop floor to into the IT industry. So I said, Chaska lag gaya tha. I wanted to move to IT. There are two reasons. One is that when in a plant, there is no AC. And two, I always wanted to be in Mumbai. So this plant was near Bombay, not in Mumbai. So I said, okay, I need to leave from there. So when I moved there, I moved into a company called Hexaware, which is Aptech. A lot of people know that. So it was a company of that. I joined as a manufacturing or maintenance consultant. In fact, the first project I did was oil and ONGC ka Bombay High mein, we used to start there. So I was a domain expert on manufacturing and maintenance. A little bit hustling there in terms of ki maintenance itna nahi aata tha, lekin maine matlab expert banke wahan ghus gaya domain mein. So we built that system. Now the thinking is like this, right? If you want to achieve something, you need to find out what needs to be done, right? I got interested in computers, so I found out that there are domain roles which are important. And similarly, then when I worked for Hexaware, then I realized that there is something called ERP, enterprise resource planning. And उनको भी बड़ा इनको domain expertise लगती है, आज भी लगती है. ERP still is quite active. And then I started finding it about it, and then I did a lot of walk-in interviews at that point of time. Blue Star Infotech करके company थी जहाँ पे they were taking in for BAN ERP solution. So luckily I got in. I was the youngest in that team. There were a lot of veterans with manufacturing experience of 15, 18 years. And I was like that 3 years experience after Tata Steel. But I got into it and I learned a whole lot of things during that time. So I would say that आधा तो manufacturing मैंने software से सीखा. And it's not a joke because a lot of people do that. So it's okay. It's not a bad thing, right? Because you got to learn what you got to learn. So I did ERP then, and then I got interested in supply chain because manufacturing, distribution, that's kind of the area which I always enjoyed. And I became a manufacturing and distribution consultant over a period of time. So I joined a company called Oracle, and then I spent about 14 years with them in Oracle India. I went to Oracle US and then Oracle Singapore. So in सब जगह पे क्या होता है कि when you start doing stuff, you then realize that कि थोड़ा सा coding आना चाहिए, ठीक है? Nothing wrong with that. So I actually wrote store procedures, अगर Oracle वालों को पता है तो store procedures in Oracle, and when I was implementing, demand planning solutions in the US. It's okay. There's nothing rocket science about coding. That's what I want to tell you. A mechanical engineer जिसने कभी code नहीं देखा, I was able to kind of code it because there was some guy who told me, "Bhai, follow this," and then you picked it up. We are engineers, we are smart people, we will be able to pick it up, right? So it's not a rocket science in there. And then I always was on the domain side. I always was on the and little bit technology. But then I moved into a role called pre-sales, which is where you need to have a domain expertise and you can sell to the customers, right? So that's now again. हम गेसू वाले हैं, बेचना तो हमको आता ही है, अपने आप को बेचते हैं, बाकी लोग को भी बेच सकते, so बाकी प्रोडक्ट भी बेच सकते हैं. So I kind of moved in that domain because I knew stuff and I knew I could convince the customers, and I did that in US, and then I moved to Singapore, and then I was heading Asia Pacific for Oracle for supply chain, and then I joined a company called Anaplan, which went IPO. So I was the vice president supply chain application for JPAC. So the idea is that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. You will find a way to do it, right? And for each of us, there's nothing complicated. मेरे जैसा आदमी अगर कर सकता है, I'm sure anybody and everybody can do it, but you need to know what you want to do. And one of the things I think Manish you mentioned, network. भाई जिंदगी में network बनाओ, और कुछ मत करो तो चलेगा, but network जरूर बनाओ. Meet as many people as possible. I was the most introvert guy. A lot of people don't know me as well. I was very introvert in nature, but I forced myself out of comfort zone. Meet people, go out of your comfort zone, talk to people. You will learn everything new. ठीक, आपको बोलने की जरूरत नहीं, but आप सुन तो सकते हो ना. So take that capabilities in there, and you will learn. And make mistakes in life. यार क्या फर्क पड़ता है? It doesn't matter you lose 1 year or 2 years in your life. It's okay. होता है, गलती होती है, but make those mistakes. And to your point, why I became an entrepreneur is that I wanted to try something. मेरा उसूल बड़ा simple था. Oracle में काम करता था, अच्छे पैसे आते थे. But one day I realized that यार Oracle के मैं जितना काम करता हूँ उसको एक nut and bolt, Larry Ellis is the owner of the company, उसके एक nut and bolt का पैसा मैं कमा के देता हूँ उसके लिए. So I said, why should I make the money for myself, right? So it's just so entrepreneurship is not bad. There are many things you can do. There are a lot of things which are there. There is एक हमारे यहाँ पे एक इंडिया में बड़ा अच्छा एक इनिशिएटिव है, iMobilython, Skoda करके कंपनी है. You can go on their website called iMobilython, and they are inviting students to give ideas and then do it with them with the company. Fantastic. So look for hackathons across Google में सर्च करो कौन सी hackathons आपके आसपास में है. मैंने खुद ने कंडक्ट किया था. I am based in Singapore, so I did a hackathon with SMU students. यार मतलब मैं बता रहा हूँ 24 घंटे के अंदर they created a forecasting application, 24 hours. That's what you learn. You just put yourself into it and you get things out of it. So just try things out. That's kind of what my advice would be. You will not lose anything for trying something. मेरा इंटरेस्ट बहुत सारे हैं, मैंने बहुत सारी चीजें सीखी. Somehow that lateral thinking comes over, and then you use that information in your life, right? So that's kind of what I would suggest. Yeah.
Very good, Sunny. Wonderful. I think there are many roles which are with which people can get into IT without having the programming skills, which is what I understood. Also, at the same time, you can always learn coding and programming if that's what it takes. And I think network is the key. I think just like we did previously, if you also have any of the, I think you gave the Skoda example, if you can share that link already in the chat box, if you have it handy, or if any other hackathons which you have in mind, I think that will be wonderful. We are almost coming to an end of scheduled time, but if it's okay, I want to go 5 minutes over. I want to ask one last question before handing it over to Shukla sir for closing remarks. Is that okay if we go 5 minutes over? Is it okay, guys, on the screen, panel members? Okay. So I wanted to go to Sulabh because Sulabh has been fantastic in offering internships to our students. I wanted to get his insights and observations on students that from GESU he has actually offered internship, and what has been his experience and what would be his advice to the future interns who want to come and work either for your company or for other companies as well.
Yeah. So that's a good question, Pradyum. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So in last 2 years, we actually offered a lot of internship and close to 25 interns in different colleges, out of which close to 11 were from GEC Ujjain. And I should thank Puneet Bhatnagar, and Puneet Bhatnagar sir actually connected me with Professor Shukla sir, and they were instrumental in helping us set up the campus placements or interviews. And so we did offer close to 11 internship to GEC Ujjain students. More than half of them joined us full time, right? So amazing experience. I'm very happy. Especially I was actually cheering for their success because I was personally involved. As we are growing within Radiance Technology, it is becoming a professional organization where we have our own HR department and there are other core team members. So not that everything I say is acceptable there, right? So I have to convince them to get into campus placement for GEC, and I was actually cheering for the students who were joining us. So, they were vested interest for them to be successful, right? So I'm glad that they didn't prove me wrong, right? So some of them have become very critical part of our products. 60% of our revenue come from product development and 40% come from services. So some of them are very critical to us, right? So that said, there are a couple of things obviously which we saw because we did close to 100+ interviews in last 2 years of Ujjain students, GEC Ujjain students, out of which we selected 10% of them, right? So one is obviously communication. Language doesn't matter whether it is English or Hindi. In fact, in most of our interviews, I say let's switch to Hindi, right? Please answer. We'll ask you a question in Hindi if you're comfortable in Hindi, and answer it in Hindi. That's perfectly fine. But basically, when we pose a problem statement to them, ask them puzzles, understanding and asking relevant questions, we saw that yes, there are some rough edges that needs to be tuned, right? That is one thing. Second thing that I have observed is everyone wants to do a development. Everyone who wants to get into IT wants to do a development. What they don't understand is that if you see the software development lifecycle, right, starting from requirement analysis to software development to testing to hypercare when you deploy it in the production environment and provide support, right? So coding is only 25% of it, right? Rest 75% is non-programming. Right? If you consider the product life cycle, if I'm launching a product into a market, so say for example, we recently launched a telehealth service for pets, right? And we have commercial B2B products in healthcare economics and outcome research. So from the idea conception to proof of concept to product development to marketing and branding to deployment, getting customer, acquiring customer, deploying those into the customer environment. If you see the complete product life cycle, coding is only 5%, right? 95% is non-coding. And one of the challenge that I see, not just in Ujjain, but also when we do the campus placements in Pune and Indore, is everybody who wants to get into IT wants to do coding, right? So they are focusing only on 5% of the problem, 95% is non-programming, right? So that is one thing that I keep telling them, but it seems like people will learn from their experience rather than listening to us, right? So that is one thing. If you see I agree with Sanjay Saini sir also, like if you see when you sell a product in the market, so even if it is a software product, right, sales people, they make 5% commission. So if I'm selling a product for $10 million, right, sales people make 500K, a person who's actually selling it, right? Pre-sales guy make close to 1% of it, right? So 100K goes to a pre-sales guy. So if you see sales and pre-sales guys, they make the most of it, and they are non-technical. And some of them may be technical, but have gone into sales and pre-sales, right? So from monetary point of view, also, if you see domain experts getting into a solution architect role or a functional consultant role or getting into pre-sales role or getting into sales roles, they make most of the money in IT industry, right? So so those are a couple of pointers that probably development team can people who are aspiring a career in development can consider, right? It's good to start with development, but when you are getting climbing up the ladder, probably you should think about getting into pre-sales and sales, right, as one of the career option. So those are a couple of things. And the last but not least is the stability, right? I think every new intern or everybody who joins a company should think of staying in that company for 6 8, unless there is any other hygiene issues that are there within the company. Let's assume the hygiene issues are not there. Then you should think about staying there for at least 6 months to 1 year, right? So that you can also contribute and see the growth within the company. What I've seen is, because of the current market, people, even if they are getting 2% or 3% jump, they move from one company to another company very, very frequently. So that is something which I think all these students should understand, that stability is very important. Even when you are getting into an interview, the interviewers look for your stability, right? Nobody wants to invest in you if you are hopping from one company to another.
Very true, Sulabh. And I think loyalty is extremely important. Commitment is very, very important. I think especially early in the career, saying yes more often than saying no to things that you want to do in the organization is also extremely important, right? I think Sani also gave an example when an opportunity came, he said yes. And he was coming from mechanical industry, he said yes to software development. I think somebody who's focused on development, if he gets an opportunity in sales or another part of the organization, I think that's extremely, extremely critical for the overall development. So I think we're right at the close, and Shukla sir is also on the screen, and also he is right here with us. So thank you, sir, for joining. I think it was a very good session. Before I hand it over to you, I just wanted to make a couple of remarks. Today, the idea was to provide a blueprint, not a very precise roadmap to specific roles or skills, but the panel here is fantastically equipped to give all the insights that anyone needs. तो अगर कल से हमको जरूरत हुई कि हम स्पेसिफिक सेशंस किसी टॉपिक पे करें, एजाइल या डेवऑप्स पे या एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पे, या बड़ी कंपनीज में प्रोडक्ट डेवलपमेंट में कैसे काम किया जाए, या सप्लाई चेन या हेल्थ केयर में कैसे काम किया जाए, सो वी हैव ऑल द एक्सपर्ट्स राइट हियर, और दे आर ऑल वेरी ओपन टू कंडक्ट इंडिविजुअल सेशंस विद द स्टूडेंट्स. अगर किसी को कोई सवाल है तो वो कर सकते हैं. और आज काफी सारे रिसोर्सेज चैट में भी शेयर हुए हैं, और हमारी कोशिश रहेगी कि ऐसे ही और सेशंस लेके आए अलग अलग डोमेन में. आईटी तो हुआ है, अभी केमिकल इंडस्ट्री हो गया या सप्लाई चेन डोमेन हो गया, उसमें हम और ऐसे सेशंस लेके आए. बट आई हैंड इट ओवर टू यू फॉर योर क्लोजिंग रिमार्क्स, सर.
Thank you very much, Pradyumn, and thanks a lot to Lokendra, Amit, Sanjay Saini ji, Manish, Sulabh, Ashutosh. I joined a little late, 5 minutes late, because I was looking at that gold medal Olympic event. And as soon as the children confirmed that, Papa, we have won the gold, then I said, I'm going to the gold mine now, gold mine of Gesu. So there are so many gold medalists are waiting for me there. And I must congratulate all of you. I must be grateful and thankful to Mr. Sanjay Khimesra, Puneet Bhatnagar, Ajay Pathik, who are all instrumental. गेसु संवाद की आप लोग जानो, आपने ये ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म खड़ा कर दिया है जिसकी मिसालें पूरे इंडिया में लोग दे रहे हैं. मुझे मालूम है कि IITs आपको फॉलो कर रहे हैं. IITs संवाद जैसा प्लेटफॉर्म, मुझे IIT दिल्ली का मैं एल्यूमनाई हूँ, so there people are emulating our effort. They have created such संवाद there for IIT alumnus. So that's a great thing that we have been doing, and all of us are in fact contributing into that. And our beneficiaries are obviously the current students and others who are in the process of developing their career. So let us talk to the today's talk. First of all, it was a wonderful topic that you have suggested and interacted upon. In fact, I am facing this particular problem along with our current students. I must tell you that since this is a pandemic time and I'm not able to get face-to-face interaction with the students, on online platform, it has been very difficult for me to motivate them for learning and for thinking in the right kind of the direction. They are sitting in their own places, maybe in a very small village, and they are not able to come out of that mentality that we are in a very small place, we cannot think of anything big. So such kind of interactions can create a confidence in them that there are seniors, there are alumni who are there in the industry to hold their hands, to nurture them, to train them, as Sulabh has been doing for us. 11 of our students have worked with him. There were some problems here and there, but most of them have been absorbed, and that's a wonderful thing. And he has promised me that he will keep on doing this. So this particular platform can do what I'm not able to do. And the first thing that I'm facing कि जो बच्चे हमारे जो बोलते ना साहब कोर में इंडस्ट्री नहीं आ रही, कोर में इंडस्ट्री नहीं आ रही। अभी मैंने आपसे कुछ दिनों पहले कुछ मैसेज शेयर करे थे संवाद में भी कि हमने करीब इस साल 126 बच्चों के अपॉइंटमेंट्स हुए, 126 और हमारा 330 का इंटेक है जैसा कि आपको मालूम है, और उसमें से बहुत सारे बच्चे होते हैं जो क्वालिफाई भी नहीं कर पाते हैं। मतलब जो एक मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट होता है 7 CGPA, 70% 10th 12th एंड 7 CGPA, तो बहुत सारे उसमें नीचे रह जाते थे। लेकिन इस बार ऑनलाइन परीक्षाएं हुई हैं तो ये बैरियर खत्म हो गया, बहुत सारे बच्चों के 9 और 10 पॉइंटर आ गए, दे वर नॉट इमेजिनिंग क्योंकि घर से बैठ के परीक्षा दी उन्होंने। तो CGPA वाला जो एक इशू था वो इस साल थोड़ा सा बेहतर हो गया है हमारे साथ में। तो मैं ये देख रहा हूँ कि ये जो 123 बच्चे हैं, इनमें से मुश्किल से 10 या 12 बच्चे ऐसे हैं जो जिसको हम रियली कोर बोल सकते हैं, उसमें गए। खासतौर पे सिविल के कुछ बच्चे गए, जिसमें भी हमारे एलुमनाई जिनका नाम लेना जरूरी, राजेश जैन जी वेलिस्पन में उन्होंने 4-5 बच्चों को लिया है, और JK सीमेंट में कुछ बच्चे गए हैं। तो इसको हम बोल सकते हैं कि सिविल के लिए एग्जैक्टली ये कोर है। बाकी मुझे बच्चों को ये समझाना पड़ रहा है कि भाई अगर आप मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर हो तो आप IT इंडस्ट्री में, ऐसा नहीं है कि आप बिल्कुल एक अलग इंडस्ट्री में जा रहे हो जिससे आपका कोई लेना देना नहीं है। When I was listening to you, you talked about supply chain management, you talked about logistics management, you talked about ERP, you talked about operations management. ये किसका काम है? ये मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर के काम है। आप में से कई लोग, संजय जी बता रहे हैं कि वो शॉप फ्लोर पे मेंटेनेंस करते थे और उसके बाद सडनली मेंटेनेंस एक्सपर्ट और ऑपरेशंस के एक्सपर्ट बन के उन्होंने काम किया इंडस्ट्री में और फिर सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट में चले गए। तो मुझे लगता है कि आप लोगों ने जो इंडस्ट्री 4.0 जिसको आज की तारीख में हम बोल रहे हैं, जिसके कि 9 पिलर्स हैं, जहाँ पे हम क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग और इंडस्ट्रियल इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स और साइबर फिजिकल सिस्टम्स और क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग, देन बिग डेटा एनालिटिक्स, इसके बारे में जो बात हो रही है वो सारी चीजें इसमें निकल के आई। मशीन लर्निंग और AI के बारे में आपको मालूम है कि हमारे एक और जो आपके मित्र हैं, शायद आप के किसी के बैचमेट है, शैलेंद्र जी, वो हमारे यहाँ पे एक AI क्लब चला रहे हैं और he is mad person, बिल्कुल पागलों की तरह वो भिड़े हुए हैं। I must acknowledge here, बच्चों को हम जितना असाइनमेंट नहीं दे पाते एज ए प्रोफेसर और जितना उनको परस्यू नहीं कर पाते, उनको पकड़ के असाइनमेंट कराना, शैलेंद्र कदरे इज डूइंग दैट वंडरफुल जॉब। तो ये जो जुनून है, ये जुनून अगर बच्चों के अंदर अभी से पैदा हो जाए, फिर आप लोगों ने मतलब बहुत सारी चीजें जो हमको आगे पीछे करना ही पड़ती है। एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के ऊपर भी बात हो गई, स्किल डेवलपमेंट के ऊपर आपने बात करी कि कोर स्किल्स क्या है जो आपको एज ए सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपर आना चाहिए। सॉफ्ट स्किल्स क्या है जिसमें हमने कम्युनिकेशन, लॉजिकल रीजनिंग की आशुतोष ने बात करी, पजल्स के बारे में बात करी सुलभ जी ने। तो ऑल दीज थिंग्स मैं नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स बच्चों को बोलता हूँ, लेकिन हम क्या है, हम घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर टाइप के लोग हैं। हम 50 चीजें बोलते हैं। मास्टर का तो काम ही है कि वो ML देता रहता है, मतलब हम बोलते हैं तो वो ML लगता है, लेकिन आप जब बोलते हो ना तो वो ऑथेंटिकेटेड लगता है कि यार ये संजय सैनी जो मेंटेनेंस करता था यार आज सिंगापुर में बैठा हुआ है और ये बोल रहा है कि ये सब चीजें होना चाहिए, तो कहीं ना कहीं होना चाहिए। ये मनीष श्रीवास्तव जी ऐसा बोल रहे हैं तो होना चाहिए। सुलभ श्रीवास्तव जी आज अपनी कंपनी चला रहे हैं और हम लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट दे रहे हैं। लोकेंद्र पवार हमको एम्प्लॉयमेंट दे रहा है। इतनी बड़ी कंपनी में थे, वहां से स्विच करके अपना काम कर रहे हैं। तो जो ऑथेंटिसिटी से आप बोलते वही बात हो, बोलना आप कुछ अलग नहीं रहे हो, ये सब बातें हम 1000 बार बोलते हैं उनको, लेकिन जो एक पीछे जो ऑथेंटिसिटी आती है, एक जो ताकत आती है, वो ताकत थोड़ी डिफरेंट। आज अगर मैं बोलूं कि यार तुम्हें एंटरप्रेन्योर बनना चाहिए, तो वो बोलेंगे कि यार आपने तो एयरफोर्स की नौकरी कर ली और चुपके से इधर टीचिंग में आ गए, जो सबसे सेफेस्ट जॉब है, और हमसे बोल रहे हो कि आप नौकरी का चक्कर छोड़ो, आप तो एंटरप्रेन्योर बन जाओ। मैं नहीं बोल सकता। वही वाली बात है ना कि जो गुड़ खाते थे गुरुजी, उन्होंने बच्चे को ये नहीं बोला कि गुड़ खाना बुरी बात है, जब तक खुद गुड़ खाना नहीं छोड़ दिया। तो संजय बोलेंगे एंटरप्रेन्योर बन जाओ, लोकेंद्र बोलेंगे, सुलभ बोलेंगे, तब बात बनेगी। आशुतोष जब डेवऑप्स की बात करेंगे या आशुतोष जब एजाइल की बात करेंगे, तब बात बनेगी। हमारे बोलने से नहीं होता है। तो ये जो एक गैप है, ये गैप को आज के इस प्रोग्राम ने बहुत शिद्दत से भरा है। और मुझे थोड़ा सा डिसअपॉइंटमेंट था, मैं जब आया तो मुझे सोच रहा था कि मेरे को आपका जो प्लेटफॉर्म है वो ओवरफ्लो हो गया होगा, लोग ज्वाइन नहीं कर पा रहे होंगे, लेकिन इट वाज अराउंड 100, 80 85 थे। आई ट्राइड माई लेवल बेस्ट, मैंने बहुत इसकी पब्लिसिटी करी। ये जो एक इनर्शिया है बच्चों में, इसको हमको ब्रेक करना है। ये थोड़ा कोरोना का मामला निपट जाए। जैसे मैं पहले स्पीक मैके के प्रोग्राम कराता था, जब आप लोग पढ़ते थे तब शायद आपने स्पीक मैके के प्रोग्राम देखे होंगे। तो मैं क्या करता था कि वो दरवाजे में पीछे से लॉक कर देता था और अंदर से भेड़ बकरियों की तरफ एक दरवाजे से भरता था, क्योंकि मुझे मालूम है कि सितार वादन कौन सुनेगा यार। इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज के लड़के सितार वादन सुनेंगे कि इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज के बच्चे बांसुरी वादन सुनेंगे? तो मैं उनको भर देता था और बाहर से दरवाजा लॉक कर देता था कि 200 बच्चे बैठ गए, अब जब तक कार्यक्रम खत्म नहीं होगा वो बाहर नहीं निकलते। आप बिलीव नहीं करोगे, जब वो कार्यक्रम खत्म होता था, दे यूज्ड टू कम टू मी एंड थैंक कि सर हमने जिंदगी में इससे बेहतरीन एक्सपीरियंस नहीं लिया। आप बांसुरी वादन टीवी पे सुन लो, आप लैपटॉप पे सुन लो, लेकिन आप जब उस सदन में बैठ के बांसुरी वादन सुनते हो और जो वेव्स वहां पे जनरेट होती है, उसका कोई मुकाबला नहीं होता। तो बस ये कोरोना निपटे और मैं 200 बच्चों को एक कमरे में बंद कर दूं और फिर मैं आशुतोष को बुलाऊं। मैं ये चाहता हूं कि वो फिर आशुतोष के साथ 2 घंटे बाहर से ताला लगा के छोड़ दूंगा। जब वो बाहर निकलेंगे, दे विल बी पम्प्ड अप, दे विल बी एनर्जेटिक, they will know what is required. So that kind of scenario we can together generate. और आज उसकी शुरुआत कर दी। वर्चुअल मोड में थोड़े से लिमिटेशंस हैं, you will also understand. We are finding it very difficult to teach, we are finding it very difficult to take exams and to evaluate the students. So these platforms are okay for people like you who are matured enough to understand the gravity of the timing and the distance and don't want to spend energy and time on like traveling and personally meeting. For us it is good, but for students personal meetings are very important. तो वो थोड़ा सा let us all pray together that will happen soon. और मैंने बहुत सारी चीजें आज सीखी हैं। आपने जो टोस्ट मास्टर क्लब के बारे में बताया, आपने संजय सन्नी जी ने नेटवर्किंग के बारे में बताया, ये बच्चों को थोड़ा धीमे धीमे समझ में आएगा। हमको शुरू में उनको जो कोर आपने टेक्नोलॉजीज की जो 9 टेक्नोलॉजीज मैंने फिगर आउट करी हैं, जिनके बारे में आपने बताया, उनके बारे में थोड़ा थोड़ा बेसिक करना है। हम लोग कोर्स का जो कुरिकुलम है उसको भी रिवाइज करते जा रहे हैं, लेकिन थोड़े से हमारी लिमिटेशंस हो जाती है। हम ऑल टुगेदर इंडस्ट्री एक्सपेक्टेड कुरिकुलम नहीं डेवलप कर सकते। जैसे एनाटॉमी तो पढ़ानी पड़ेगी, उसके बाद आप कैंसर स्पेशलिस्ट बना सकते हो, तो हमें बॉयलर तो पढ़ानी पड़ेंगे, उसके बाद हम आपको कुछ नया देंगे। तो चेंजेस आ रहे हैं, लेकिन उस स्पेस पे नहीं आ पा रहे हैं जिसपे। तो ये जो संवाद का प्लेटफॉर्म है, ये वो उस गैप को ब्रिज करता रहेगा। जो हम कुरिकुलम में नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, वो हम आपकी मदद से करना चाहते हैं। बिग थैंक यू फॉर all of you who have devoted your valuable time, and I am taking this as a very positive step for the betterment of our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you sir, thank you so much, and thank you to all fantastic panel members who are here. ये सारे लोग जो हैं अपने गेसू का और अपने देश का नाम अलग अलग फील्ड्स में ऊंचा कर रहे हैं। सो वंडरफुल टू हैव दैट इंटरेक्शन। जैसे शुक्ला सर ने कहा, मैंने भी पिछले 1-1.5 घंटे में बहुत कुछ सीखा है। थैंक्स अ लॉट एवरीवन, प्लीज स्टे सेफ, स्टे हेल्दी, गुड नाइट, शुभ रात्रि, शब्बा खैर। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
All the very best. Yeah.